Greetings, beloveds. I wanted to make a video to reflect with all of you a little bit about the importance of allowing ourselves to go into stillness, to go into the void, to go into detachment from our reality. Attachment causes suffering. We have heard this in many different ancient texts, Buddhism, and also in the Christian religion as well. And that as we are attached not only to our external reality, our external outcomes, but also to our bodies. Yes, it is important to really honor the body, to really honor Earth, to really take care of our bodies, for it is a blessing. It is a gift from the universe for us to be able to have this experience inside of this physical vessel. But it is also very important to not be attached. If you imagine yourself floating in a river and you are clinging on to everything around the edge, holding on to the rocks because you don't want the river to take you somewhere. But the thing is that the river is always flowing. It never stops flowing. And so when we do that inside of our minds, if we are constantly clinging on to these relationships outside of ourselves, to the relationship to our own vessel, to the outcomes and our ideals, then literally we are dirtying up our mind as we cling on all of these other things floating by attached to us. We have heard this perhaps in some of the different Hopi prophecies and in different ancient texts from around the world. But it is truly so important for us to dissolve and able to give birth to ourselves continuously. And the key to that is absolute presence. Absolute presence. If we allow ourselves, and I should say I invite all of you to experience this, is to go into a sensory deprivation, whether that is a sensory deprivation tank or just laying in your bed with all the lights off. I have these amazing mindfold masks and then earplugs that I like to put in, and that whenever you feel overstimulated, and you know that you feel overstimulated if your mind is going super quick and you have all of these stories that are playing through your mind and you're thinking about all these other people besides yourself and where you are right now, what is in your current environment. That is when you're overstimulated. And it is so important to dissolve into the sensory deprivation in whatever way you have access to that in that moment. Whether it's midday or evening, whatever it may be, I like to do it before I sleep. So about 2 hours before I go to bed, I'll just have a moment where I allow all of the information that I took on that day to dissolve into the stillness. And oftentimes, because our bodies are like multi-dimensional JPEGs, so we're taking on all this information, perceiving all this information, and then processing it through our minds and through our bodies. And if we don't allow ourselves to fully process all of that information, then it just gets reflected and projected into the dream space so that we can better digest and able to take on new information the next day. And so about 2 hours before I go to bed, I'll put on my mindfold masks. You can find them on Amazon. They're really inexpensive, or just anything that will block out the light. And I allow almost like this projection screen of all of my thoughts, of all of this information to project itself onto the void, onto the darkness. And as that's happening, I can see that I took on a lot of information that I didn't even realize that I took on throughout the day, that was playing in my mind, in different areas of my mind and my body and my digestive system. And I just allow all of that to dissolve. This process is a natural part of getting to the central point, of getting into the center of the lucid awakening, of lucid dreaming. Lucid dreaming comes from a space of total presence. I don't know if any of you have experienced this, but I can say that I've experienced this, and I still continue to work through this, is that as soon as I sink in to a layer of lucid dreaming, or just absolute stillness, absolute release, there's a part of my body that is afraid of this release, that is afraid of that it can totally let go, totally trust, and experience the multitude and the multidimensionality of reality. And so there's like, I oftentimes see it as that there's many different lenses within your eye. And when you're in darkness, you can really feel this, because as you sink in, your eyelids, almost like your eyes, click further and further back into stillness. And as that is happening, sometimes there's a mechanism of survival of the body that feels like it needs to constantly be aware because of its attachment to life, to its attachment to living this experience. And that is the aspect right there, that we are working on soothing, relaxing, all of these primal feelings of survival, of constantly having to be aware of its reality, because you don't want to, be murdered or something, and you're laying in your bed in your locked, safe home. But there's this survival mechanism that wants to keep you constantly aware of the external reality. And this is what we are working on dissolving, is that little switch inside our head that feels like it needs to constantly be aware. But the thing is that when we can truly be aware of our realities, of the multitude of not only the internal realities but also the external realities, it takes us allowing ourselves to surrendering into the body, surrendering into the mechanisms of the mind that actually allow true stillness, true presence. The mind is evolving, the body is evolving, our consciousness is evolving. And what we are doing is that we are fine-tuning our mind to be a tool for the heart. That is its purpose. If you imagine the heart as this vast landscape of nature, all is nature. It's all existing right now. It's all love. It's all ecstasy. That's what the heart is forever, forevermore, through infinity. And the mind is this mechanism of creation, that if we can use that magnitude of that love from our heart and reflect that light through our intention, through our mind, through our third eye, and create things, create structures on that landscape of the heart, then we are going to create such beautiful things in our life, such beautiful things that are in resonance with the heart. But the thing is that you can see it all around us in the reflection of humanity and society, is that they've kind of pushed this down, closed this off, and then they're just building based off of the mind. Because the mind is a powerful tool, people are constantly stretching what they can do with the mind. But you look at all of the different structures and the way that they're being built, and they're not being built in harmony with nature as the heart. And so that is where we are headed, is that we are learning how to dissolve and able to truly feel the core of the heart, to truly feel the core of who you are. So many of us don't even truly know who we are. We have these ideas of who we are. We have different information about things that we like, things that we don't like, all of these different things, that a lot of it can come from the mind, and then there's glimpses of the heart, glimpses of the body, glimpses of the soul. But the goal is to truly embody your body, soul, and mind working in total harmony. The mind loves to create stories, loves to create ideals. And oftentimes, we are so lost and caught up in it that we don't even realize how fast and how fluid our mind is constantly going. But when we can allow ourselves to dissolve into the darkness, dissolve into stillness, we can truly understand what it means that we are the creators of our own reality. When you go into darkness and there's no other stimulus around us, it's all from within us. We can truly begin to see that there are many layers of programming so many layers of programming based off of society ideas, our school structures, the food that we ate, all of these different hormones that our young child was pumped with, all of the chemicals in the air, all of the ideas of others, and so on and so forth. There's so many layers of programming. And when we move through those layers of programming and we allow those impurities and external projections and reflections to dissolve and melt away, oftentimes what we will find, if we can get that deep, if we can get to the original juicy core of our essence, for me anyway, I feel a child. I feel this innocence, this true innocence that is my heart, that is eternally present, that is eternally here, that is eternally wanting to celebrate within the now, in its innocence, in its love, and in its empowerment. And nothing else matters besides that energy, besides that frequency. And then just to feel that and to exist in that and be that. I only truly met this essence about a year ago when I was on a fast. This essence of the eternal child, of the eternal innocence. And as I was on that fast, which is a method to get to that essence, because our digestive system and our psyche, and it's all linked together, our genetics has so many layers of programming, not just from this lifetime, but also from our ancestors' lifetimes, like my mom's lifetime, her mom's lifetime, my dad's lifetime, his dad's lifetime, and that it goes on and on and on and on. And so when we can go into total stillness, total presence within that healing journey, like I did when I was fasting, and I was cleansing a lot of different layers, a lot of physical layers of this body's trauma, of this body's, programming, then I got to this essence, of my genetics and the different trauma that was within my genetics, and I had this whole unravelment happen, that I was seeing past lives that were from this body's genetic experience, and they were unfolding and unfolding and unfolding. And then I had this experience where I saw literally a witch being burned at a witch trial. And I was crying and bawling because she was so innocent, and I saw myself in her. And yet she was being accused of, devil worship and all these things. But what she was doing was that she was in harmony with nature, and she didn't fear God, which I found out was a sin at that time, that it was illegal not to fear God. Which is so silly and so sad, but it was a part of the evolution experience. But so in that experience, I saw that, and I cried, and I released this trauma, and I called my mom and I told her about it, and she was like, wow, your grandma just told me that our great grandmother was one of the original witches within the witch trials here in the States. And I was like, of course it is. And then that story began to unravel more and more. And I found out that she was a really well-known witch, Lydia Gilbert, and that there's this entire book written about her and her trial. And I got the book and I was reading about it, and she, just to be able to reflect upon that story, and that I saw it before I ever knew anything about that story, is that for me it was such a validation of genetic healing. And so I'm going to link this all back into that experience that I had on that cleanse, is that I was allowing myself to heal, cleanse, digest, move through, let go of the layers of programming. And then I reached this state of such nirvana. I was laying there and I just felt Phoenix. I really felt who Phoenix is. And I feel like I was meeting myself for the first time. Yes, I have met many different layers of myself, but all of which have had a certain degree of programming, even within the medicine states, certain degrees of programming. And within this moment, I met Phoenix, and her essence was so beautiful, so pure, so present, so gentle yet strong. And I felt her message for this planet. I felt her purpose. And from that moment, I've been continuously getting back to that point, getting back to meeting Phoenix, not just within glimpses, but within my entire embodiment. And it is a continuum. From that space, from that heart space, that central juicy space of our true essence, our true authentic essence, there is no worry, there is no stress about what is happening. There is absolute trust, absolute faith, absolute stillness. And yes, within that space, the waves of life will continue. The waves of drama and all of these different things, but from that space of core essence, of the original essence, the waves aren't going to crash you down. You're not going to be tumbled in the waves and drown and gasp for air, but instead you are walking on water. You are floating. You are present. You are allowing the flow of the natural river of life to move through you within every single moment. And so many people, including myself, have to work through different layers of fear. This fear is our attachment to life, our attachment to this experience, the attachment to the ideals of how we want things to work out. But when we can truly allow this river to flow through us and go through those dams of fear within our body, and allow that river of life to fill every single molecule of our body, the bliss, the love, the absolute is present. And when we can access that, we begin to truly understand what we want to create here, what we have to create here, what excites us. I recently had this experience that I went into a float tank, which is a tank that is, it has salt water that is the perfect temperature of your body and the perfect salt ratio to your body. And it's a completely dark room and you're floating there. And from that experience, I could see how much our minds are constantly creating the love and the fear. The love and the fear. The fear, these fearful thoughts that we have continuously throughout the day, is created because of resistance. Resistance towards allowing the natural flow of life to flow through you, which can be scary because it's almost like you're dying while you're alive. Continuously allowing yourself to die and dissolve while you were breathing, while you were in this embodiment, which for me resonates so deeply into the Egyptian teachings within the Book of the Dead and all of these ancient modals of which the Egyptians would consciously die. And we have the opportunity to do that every single night within the journey towards lucid dreaming, is to consciously let go of our life, of our ideas, of the way we think that things should work out, and we allow the magnitude of the universe to fill us, to guide us, to direct us. And so within that experience, when I was laying in the float tank, and I would have the slightest little fear of, the darkness, like what happens, like I'm in this locked, concealed container, and what happens if the building catches on fire and I'm stuck in here, like this little fear. And all of a sudden, I would just see all of these dark images, like all of this fear, all of this potential reality. And then the only way that it would stop as if I would dissolve and surrender, let go, totally trust, absolute trust. And as soon as I would do that, I had this experience within the float tank. I dissolved, and I felt this hand touch my left arm. And then I felt this body wrap itself around me. And then all of a sudden, all this light filled inside of my head from this trust, from this dissolution of self, from my detachment. And this body wrapped around me, and I realized that I was wrapped inside of Isis wings, and the goddess Isis, and such purity, such bliss. And I was like, who am I to you? I asked that question, and she was like, you are my daughter. And then as soon as that happened, her wings opened up, and she was wrapping me like a mummy, and preparing me for an initiation. And she was anointing my flesh with oils, and I couldn't exactly see her, but I felt her essence, such purity, such bliss, that only we can't have those experiences if we have fear. If we have fear of dissolving into oneness consciousness. And so within that experience, I just realized so deeply that our attachments are impure, that our fear, yes, thank you, fear, for teaching us how to get back to ourselves, back to our original essence. Thank you, fear, for being a master mystery school teacher on this planet. Thank you, with gratitude, always with gratitude. But from that space, fear, our attachments, its impurity, its suffering. So when we can dissolve, let go, there it is. There I am, Isis. There I am, the Divine Mother. There I am, eternally holding me and initiating me into the rites of passage of what it means to truly be human, of what it truly means to be awake within this reality. And it all comes from present moment, from wakefulness, from dissolving. I invite you all to find that stillness within your daily reality, to give yourself permission to dissolve into stillness, to dissolve into the lucid dream of this reality, and to hold yourself with that love and that grace of your own eternal divine heart, divine love. Continuously soothe your mind with the lubrication of the love from the heart. Continuously, until it is so natural that your heart is this chalice of creation that is overflowing, overbubbling with this lubrication, with this love, with this water of eternal surrender. And it is continuously coming up your body and baptizing your mind to dissolve back into union. Thank you all for listening. Peace and blessings. And if you have any questions about specific ways to get into the state, I would love to make another video if you're interested in it. Thank you all for listening. Peace and blessings always.